Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, friends.
Hello.
We got a real humdinger of a podcast for
Ooh,
you today.
A humdinger.
Yeah, we're going to do a deep dive on the ancient pyramids and how the aliens built them.
All of the Connected Life people are like, wow, this podcast took a twist.
Quite a twist from relationships to conspiracy theories.
That's funny.
I am fascinated by how those things got built.
I am too.
That's like the only thing. Like in afterlife, the first question is, tell me about the pyramids.
I doubt that's your first question.
Nah, I don't care.
I don't even believe you.
I don't want to know about the purpose of life. I want to know about the flipping pyramids.
That doesn't seem true. That doesn't seem
No,
true.
You don't?
I don't think that's the first question you're going to ask.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. It sounds like you know my mind better than I know it.
I feel like when you talked about it, it felt like a funny thing to say on the podcast, but not necessarily what you really believe.
Yeah. Well, I am playing. Are you just trying to suck the play out of the beginning of this episode? You just want to just douse it with not play? Like just dump not play on it and light it on fire?
Dump not play. Dump not
My
play
Lord.
on it.
My Lord. Anyways.
And light it on fire. No, I actually I've loved all 5 of your podcast intros today. I thought all of them were funny and
all
delightful.
of our get-goes.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've been good. They've been good.
Well, hey, for those of you who don't know us, we are life consultants. We've been doing life consulting for a lot of years. We've created programs. We've created programs.
We've trained hundreds of consultants.
Yeah. So that's a fun thing that we do. But we're not going to talk about that. You can look into more of our podcasts, and you can visit Justin and Abby. That's abi.com if you want to check out more about us in that way. For right now, today, we're going to do a deep dive on something that Abby feels very excited about.
Do you not feel excited about it?
I don't not feel excited about it. It's just your subject. But I was like, yeah, that's
your
interesting.
Subject.
I think it's a subject.
It's your subject.
I think it's a subject.
What if every podcast we start denoting whose subject it is, and then we
this
take
is
votes?
all on her, him.
We take votes and to see who comes up with the better subject.
Mm-hmm.
Make this a competition.
Yeah. Now, this is a subject that easily people would be like, oh, boring.
Yeah.
I don't care. You could have emotions about it. But I think that this is actually really powerful. I think that this subject alone can change the quality of your life, like complete trajectory of the quality of your life, if you can begin to understand yourself better in this area and master this area.
Yeah. I mean, so just to break it open, we're going to be talking about self-control.
So,
as soon as I even say the word,
Uh-huh.
I shudder on the inside. I'm like, I don't want to hear about self-control. Ew. Like, I grew up with so much religion around that word and so much rules and regulations. And I love freedom. At the heart of me, I love being free.
Correct.
So just like, I like to be able to do what I want to do. And I hate control. I hate being controlled by people.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of self-control, it's just the word sounds awful to me.
Yeah, it just sounds like rules just being slopped on your face.
Yeah. It's being slopped on your face.
I don't even know what I said.
I imagine like a painter just painting, slopping rules on your face.
Rules.
But for me, even if we could just title it something else, maybe like boundaries with myself or something.
Yeah, or I started a long time ago calling self-control self-management, because I was managing my inner world, my emotions, my experience, because it felt like a powerful, because to me, self-management, right, is about an empowered style of living and creating a life that I want and experiences that I want.
Yes. And I am all for that. I think for me personally, I grew up so tormented. I was suicidal. I had anxiety. I was depressed. I had huge emotional outbursts. I had a hormone problem. And so I really did have huge dysregulated crying, yelling, emotional moods that destroyed my life. And so I felt out of control from the inside out.
Yeah.
I remember feeling really hacked, like with hormones. It felt like somebody came in and they hacked my emotion system and just took over and did whatever they wanted. And I was like, this is not what I chose. This is not what I want.
Yeah.
And so I felt very emotionally out of control.
Right. You felt like a tornado inside, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I was being happened to just living. Like,
totally.
And I felt like my biggest adversary were my emotions and what was going on inside of me.
Which makes
my own personal torment.
Which makes it very much like, I don't even, going back to it, I don't want to be here. Like if this thing is happening to me at all times, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, that sounds morbid.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying that's why I was suicidal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, you don't have to take it to dark. I took it to dark.
You started it.
That was a real ADD gap for me.
Yeah.
So because of that, I felt really out of control. And what I have learned is there were a lot of things that emotionally, a great example would be a kid that just throws fits all the time because their parents never put parameters on what they can do or can't do. And the kid feels out of control. That's how I felt inside. And what we all need is we actually need a loving parent to be with us, but to put some firm guidelines around so that it can help us feel our feelings in a safe way. And so I didn't realize that I myself needed guidelines internally around my emotions and how I reacted from my emotions in order to create safety with myself. It's not about controlling myself.
Yeah.
It's about creating safety and security and stability within myself. But often what that means is looking at the bigger picture instead of just reacting to whatever's going on inside of me right then.
Yeah. It's interesting. This thought popped into my head, which is I remember phrases like, you just need to have some self-control.
Mm-hmm.
If you just have self-control, it'll be better. And it was always associated with, if I have self-control, I will be a good person.
Right.
I will make all the right decisions and then I'll be approved. And also, I saw the idea of self-control being slapped on people who had a lot of addictions or difficult things, and there was a lack of compassion around the conversation. And I just wanted to reiterate this really quick. Like, this conversation about self-management has a lot of compassion and understanding for the conditions, and we're going to get into stuff that will perpetuate the compassionate idea of that. But again, it's a conversation about empowerment, because like what you're talking about is like this thing inside of me felt like it had no parameters to help alleviate the torment that I was inside of. So it just kept like growing and having its way inside of my being. And you didn't necessarily, maybe no one knew how to help you interpret that and move towards that. And so, yeah,
I think that, again, I hated the concept of it to begin with.
Yeah.
But as I've grown, I've learned that when you're saying no to some things, you're saying yes to other things. And so instead of thinking about what I can't do or what I can't have or what I want to control, I'm always thinking, what is it that I want for my life? And self-management is aiming me towards what I want instead of letting my emotional reactions take me towards the thing that I want to avoid. And so for me, a lot of self-control, and I think this is a lost art. It's a lost discipline in today's culture. And that's one of the reasons I like ice baths. That sounds like a crazy thing, but it's a form of self-management. It's coming back to the thing of like, I can actually feel things and choose what I want to do still and not be just overcome by what's going on inside of me. Because a lot of times when we don't have self-management or self-control, however you want to say it, it's because we want this short-term comfort really quick. We don't want to wait for the long-term goal. We don't want to wait for the long-term reward. We don't want to experience
that short-term discomfort.
Yes.
Right? So, but then we lose out on the beauty of everything else that we could be having, like the benefits of it. Like you're talking about cold plunging, there is this sense of discomfort every time you get in, but the dopamine that's released, if you allow yourself to be present, relax into the experience of discomfort, creates comfort and creates long-term health benefits.
Yeah. And so the idea is, instead of looking at, I just want to run away from pain all of the time, I'm actually going to choose which pain to face and which pain to not face. So a great idea for me, this is a concept I do a lot in self-control, is if I'm triggered, I know that scientifically, once my trigger folder is open, that means my brain and body is looking for every sign of threat. And it's trying to gather all of the threat signs together. And it's trying to make me aware, hyper aware and afraid. So if I'm triggered about something, that is never the time I think through, what am I doing with my life? Where is it going? Do I feel fulfilled? What is this the right path for me? Like all of the life questions, I take self-control when I'm already triggered. So I'm like, my brain will go no good places while it's only gathering threats. Like it will, if I'm thinking about, if I'm already triggered by something, let's say that a friend does something that makes me feel unsafe, then I'm likely to project unsafety into everything about my future and into every other area. What if money becomes unsafe? And what if I never find the friends that connect me to the right moments? And what if it just continues to go on? Like, what if my daughter never gets out of this thing? We take whatever threat it is and we future cast it. And so I have learned I cannot think about the future if I am already threatened by what's happening now.
Yeah.
It's like a no zone. But it's not because I'm like, oh, I just need to have self-control. It's because I know that will make me feel horrible and it won't resolve anything.
Yeah. One of the things I feel like you're talking about, first off, is a conversation of managing our emotions. Mm-hmm. In today's culture, there's one of the advancements in I don't know, like what you'd call it, de-evolutions
totally.
of our human experience. Like an advancement is that we are willing to have conversations about our emotions and attend to our emotions.
Which is awesome.
Where there was like a generation that experienced like, we're dead to our emotions. Mm-hmm. They are worthless. They reveal nothing good about us or about life and whatever. And we've integrated this part of our being that's a vital part of our human experience. However, in doing so, we've also pendulum swung to this sense of like my emotions control all of my experience and I am subject to their responses. And you're kind of talking about that. You're like, hey, I'm realizing that if I allow this thing to grow out of control and I am not managing it and healthily relating to my emotional experience, what will happen is it will cause me long-term negative effects inside of my life where I'll actually lose out on the quality of experience that I hope to have. And so first and foremost, we're going like, when we're talking about self-management, we're like, let's first take a look at our emotions. Do we have a healthy relationship with our emotions where they have a freedom of expression that's within the confines of a healthy set of boundaries?
Yes.
Where all of a sudden we are collaborating with our emotions versus being driven by them.
Yes. I love that line, collaborating with our emotions, not being driven by them. Another thing I always thought is I'm allowed to feel what I feel, but not behave how I feel. Or find healthy ways to behave with my feelings. So like you can be sad, but you can't throw a shoe at a human.
A shoe. I have a shoe here. Take that. I'm sad.
I don't know why that. I imagine just throwing my shoe in your face.
But you're imagining like, hey, it's okay to have the sadness, but are my reactions conducive with honor and respect to the world outside of me while I'm processing those feelings?
Yeah, and this is one of the biggest things inside relationships, because we are working with so many different relationships all the time, is people get triggered. That's normal. People get hurt. They have big feelings. They get scared. They feel abandoned or rejected or alone. And then we have big feelings in our bodies where we're like, I don't want to. And then what we want to do is we want to yell. We want to blame. We want to get angry. We want to storm off. We want to, we have a lot of behavior we want to do when we're feeling really big feelings. And so for me, one of the things that self-control looks like a lot, we were having a question about this in the school, is I still have so many times I get very angry or self-protective or feel threat inside of our relationship.
Yeah.
And so, and there's a lot of times where I know the right thing to do. The right thing to do is apologize because I am hormonal, or the right thing to do is to take ownership because I did get edgy, and I normally will be narrating that in my brain. The right thing to do is this, but I will feel so much emotional resistance to do the thing that I want. And this is where self-management to me is not about what is the pain of this moment, but who is it that I want to become?
Right.
And I'm wanting to make choices in alignment with that. So I may feel like everything inside of me does not want to apologize. I want to blame you for what you said first.
Oh, girl.
Or what you did
I've
first.
Been there before.
But instead, what I'm going to do is like, who do I want to be? I want to be someone who's good at taking ownership for my part. I want to be somebody who's honest about my issues and isn't just blaming someone else. I want to be someone that is connected to themselves. I want to be someone who, and so it becomes, even if it's like, what is a small way that I can do this?
Yeah.
That is self-management. It's that idea of, or one thing that I'll do a lot of times is I'll be sitting there because I'm fuming and I want to yell about something. That yelling is a self-protector for me. And so I will actually think, what is it that I want to get from Justin? And this is, I actually use this Bible story in my brain a lot. You know, Esau, I think he went hunting. I'm forgetting every detail about it, but he didn't eat for a while, and he came back, and somebody was like, "Oh, would you like some soup?" And he was really, really hungry, and he was like, "Yes." And they were like, "I will give you the soup if you sell your birthright inheritance to me." And he ended up being so hungry that he did. And I just think that's such a great analogy of self-control, which is there is something that we feel like we need or we want or we're trying to get out of. He was trying to get out of his hunger. He had a deep feeling of need in his body, and he lost hold of what a long-term benefit could be. And He chose short-term comfort. And so I'm often like, am I choosing short-term relief? So yelling at you might be a short-term relief of the anxiety I have in my body.
Blowing off the steam for the second.
Mm-hmm.
But the
it might be a quick way for me to let go the energy that I have when I'm frustrated. But what the cost will be is that now you're going to be defensive. Now you're going to have your guards up. Now you're not going to feel safe. You're less likely to want to come close to me and love me and be near me. And what is it that I really want? I want connection. I want love. I want safety. So I'm thinking through, if I want safety and I stab you with my sword, are you more likely to be like, here, let me hug you? Or are you more likely to pull out your sword?
Yeah, you started a battle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so
two have entered the arena.
This is where self-control gets in with my emotions is I will slow myself down. And that's the first part of self-management to me is when I can feel my body will have a huge surge of emotion, of energy, of anxiety, of anger, of whatever the rush is inside of us. And that's when I'm like, okay, before I release, I think about it like releasing the dragon, before I like breathe fire all over you. And it almost feels like the fire has built up inside of me so intensely that I need to breathe fire on you so that I can feel okay again. You know, like a mom who needs to nurse. It's like so painful. She's like, I need to feed my baby now. And so I think about the need for the fire to release. That's when I slow down. And I think, what is it that I really want? Right now I'm trying to get out of the uncomfortable feeling of intense anger or anxiety or fear in my body. But what do I really want? I really want safety. Is breathing fire on Justin going to create safety?
Nah, that dragon's just going to get slayed.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that you're talking about is, again, going back to casting vision, right?
Yes.
This is, you're casting vision for the moment. Like in the next day, what do I want? In the next 4 hours, what I want. I'm getting vision in my head. My vision is I want to be close. I want to be held. I want to be connected to. I want to feel loved on. my vision for that is not going to come into fruition if I blow my cork right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I, even inside a relationship, I had to do that at times. I'm like, I know that if I respond this way, it's just going to cost us a couple extra hours of my day, which I want those hours. I want them to do the things I want to be doing. I don't want them to be us stewing and disconnected and then us, like, I don't want my day wasted. And early on inside of our marriage, we wasted so many days. I mean, nothing goes wasted, but it was like, we blew time away that could have been utilized in much different ways if we had vision for what was going on and a level of self-management and an ability to healthily communicate through what was going on inside.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, again, that expands into the vision for all parts of life. Like, who do I want to be? That is a governor that has been really instituted inside of me, inside of our conflicts, just starting there, because I'm like, yeah, she's breathing fire and she's got her sword out in this moment. And if I can really quickly go back to this thought of who do I want to be, and I have a list of things that I want to be, it apprehends me, those parameters. And it says, Justin, right now, the best decision is to politely excuse yourself from this experience.
Totally.
And to return later, because who you want to be is someone who maintains honor and respect for the person that you love.
Yeah.
And you're veering on not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the concept of self-management is I have a vision for where I'm going. Yeah. And I want to make decisions that say yes towards that billboard of who I want to become. And it's also vision, not just for myself, but my relationships. So this marriage, my friendships, who I want to be as an employer, who I want to be as a leader or an authority figure in, say, emotional health or something. Like, who do I want to be in all of these areas is going to define. Like, do you know how many times I've been scrolling on Instagram and I'm like, ooh, I don't have self-management. Here it comes. Yes. And then right before I hit send, my thumb goes, and I'm like, go, hit it. No. And I'm like, why won't you hit it? And I'm like, oh, because I have this thing built in that says, what kind of leader do I want to be and how do I want to represent myself? And I'm like, and I delete. Yes. And I back off and I'm like, oh, I was triggered. I was so triggered. Right. But that changed, that created an internal governor. And I really have started editing myself in a million different situations, both via social media and relationships. Yeah. And I think that's one of the ways that I use self-management a lot is on social media. I am aware. So one thing that's every helpful, first response is supposed to be a draft. That's a good line. Yeah. So when I'm on social media, I'd like to call people's attention to the physical experience we are having in our bodies in most of our life. If you start to pay attention to what your body is feeling and what it's going through, you'll notice a lot. So when I'm on Instagram and I watch a video that I'm mad at, or I see a comment that I'm mad at, it's like there's a rush of energy. Or there's like it could feel like an injustice emotion, and it could feel like I need to right this wrong, but it's typically an intense energy. Yeah. And most of us are not paying attention to our bodies enough to recognize that we are having strong body sensations. And so what we think is that we need to say something or do something right then to release that body sensation. Yeah. And what we're trying to do is get out of the body discomfort that we're in. And so when I'm scrolling on social media and I find myself really heated about something that I see, there's actually anxiety or fear or anger in my body. And so what I will stop and do is I will say, okay, what's actually going on inside my body? I'll just turn my attention towards it. Self-reflection. Ooh. Yes. I'll just turn my attention. What's going on? Oh, I'm feeling so much anxiety. What is it that I'm trying to get out of by reacting? When we want to react fast, that's a sign that we're triggered. When we want to react fast, that's a sign that there's discomfort happening in our body. And so the way that I slow down is by actually, when I feel that knee-jerk need to say something back in the middle of you talking, when I feel that need to respond to the comment that I think is stupid, when I feel that need to react fast, that's the first clue that there is discomfort that I need to turn towards and pay attention. Oh, body, what are you feeling? Oh, you're feeling a lot of fear. Oh, you're feeling a lot of anxiety. Oh, you're feeling a lot of energy bubbling up. What do I need to do to actually go discharge that energy?
Punch a wall.
Well, like, honestly, you could do like heel stomps. You can punch a pillow. Go get a punching bag. Like there are lots of ways to release the emotional charge that we get stuck in without doing it at the activity that we are triggered by. Yeah. So instead of it coming out at you or the person online or whatever, it's my goal to manage, I don't like feeling stuck in those feelings. And typically what happens is I respond out of my trigger. I'm so mad. I release my fury into the comment, and then they respond back, and then I respond back, and I've spent the whole day increasing my frustrated energy.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Instead of being like, I want to feel good today.
Yeah.
So what am I doing to protect my energy and my body experience to actually stay in feeling good? And most of the time that's walking away. From social media.
So one of the things that you're talking about, so oftentimes self-control or self-management can be viewed as, I just need to take what I'm feeling and swallow it.
Yes. I think this is such a good point.
And so what happens is when we continue, what happens is when we continue to swallow these moments of this energy inside of us is we will build a mountain.
Yes.
Of emotions.
Yes.
That somehow become a giant volcano and they unleash in other areas that are really bad eventually.
Or even in that meltdown. Area. That's really bad.
Or it ends up becoming body meltdowns. So we end up suffering sickness and disease because we're swallowing emotions. Again, emotions aren't bad. It's how am I managing them and releasing them? Because management isn't self-stuffing. It's self-management. So I'm choosing how to articulate, release, and navigate my feelings. So for this situation,
can I just say, so what you're saying is how it's more like we are choosing where the river goes, not trying to dam the river up.
Correct.
We're helping guide the river to not knock out this whole village. We want to guide the river towards the ocean, but we are not damming up the river.
Yeah. So with that, it's like, I'm feeling all these intense emotions over my exchange on social media or potential exchange that could happen. I'm not going to respond. And now I'm going to be deliberate about how do I need to get this emotion or feeling out of my body? How do I need to reconcile it? Whether it's I'm going to pay close attention to this is pain that needs some compassion put on it.
Yes.
Or this is a level of intensity that I actually need to physically work it out of my bad body by doing something to release. And then I'm like, okay, I got that out. I'm done with that. And then the question becomes, how did I get there in the first place? Because the self-reflective thing of like, why is it that they could hook me?
Yeah.
Why is it that this level of emotion could be triggered inside of me? And again, this is part of the power of self-management is it involves that self-reflection that then really leads to repair.
Yeah.
As we search out, how did I get here?
So
then
that
I ask, how do I
keep doing this again?
Having this cycle that continues to haunt me when I'm on social media or in a relational exchange, which that was, there's hundreds of moments where I took, even in our relationship, and said, okay, how did I get here? Okay, it began here in this part of my childhood. I need these things to take place in order to repair that. I did that. And now I don't show up in this relationship with this type of emotional mess anymore.
Yes. Well, and I was thinking about the same concept. Like I have friends who are addicted to a person, like addicted to a situationship, a relationship. And so one of the things they have to do is they have to recognize what's going on in my body before I cave into my, like, I don't want this relationship. So what happens in me before I decide to compromise over what I want, to abandon what I really want. I really want a fulfilling relationship where I get married and have kids. So I want to say no to this relationship that I know is not that. So what happens that people can't say no? And so it's paying attention to your body and your triggers. What was going on? What is it that you need? Oh, when I start to feel lonely, or when I start to feel, or at night, that's when I start to lose my self-control. Or like, you have to learn what is the recipe for when I surrender my self-management, for when I give it up. What is the recipe for that? And so then how do I create ingredients that helps me? If I know nighttime is my hardest time, then I'm probably going to let my friends know nighttime is the hardest time. So that's the time that maybe they can check in on me. Like, hey, I'm really struggling. If you want to, like, I know if one of my friends was like, hey, I'm really struggling at night, I'd be like, I'll text you at night and just see how you're doing. Like, at least so you know that somebody's thinking of you or with you in this process. Like, or if you're, a lot of that is the creative problem solving. When we can find the things that are driving us, then we can actually get our needs met in other ways so that we feel strong enough to say no.
Yeah. One of our goals, because I like the conversation about practical external management of like, if I have a history of abuse of alcohol, I'm probably not going to consistently put myself in a bar because the environment like will provoke, things.
Yeah.
But a beautiful spot, and I'm using alcohol as an example, you can put anything else in there, is that I could go in the bar because I've maybe not go park myself there and live there, but I could go there after a history of abuse because I've actually been able to navigate certain things internally. Like that would be the dream idea, is if I could resolve things that were driving me down that path, that I could find the freedom of being there. Now, if I don't have that, the external parameters are a really beautiful way to start the process.
Well, and I just think sometimes you need years of a different association and different body memories. And depending on how addicted you are, like some people may never be able to go back to a bar. And I don't think that's bad. I actually think if that's what they need and they're choosing that, then that's great self-management.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if some people can, I still wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. But the dream is ultimately in part of self-management is that I'm exploring the why.
Right. You're saying instead of just having
the external, I'm going, what is the why? And is there a why that I have the capacity to navigate and overcome and repair inside of me?
Instead of just trying to willpower it. That's what you're saying. Instead of just trying to force the thing down, because I just don't think it's a great idea to go to a location where you're purposefully having the thing you want.
Sure.
Shoved around.
My example is trying to talk about getting past the white knuckle process, which again, the white knuckle process is needed and helpful to like prevent more destructive behavior. And I use alcohol, but it could be a million things that we do. It could be online shopping, and it could be crazy gambling debts, and who knows. But just the addictive behavior and stuff that feels like it's driving us.
Well, when we try to white knuckle it, as soon as we say, this is wrong, I don't want to do it at all, our souls are immediately like, I want to do it.
Right. We become obsessed with this thing that we're not allowed to have.
100%.
And
as soon as we're like, I'm not going to online shop, then we're like, I have to online shop. Then it becomes temptation, and then it becomes like breaking the rules, and it actually becomes very exciting, and we obsess about it.
Right.
And so instead of trying to say, just say no to the online shopping, my goal is like, what are the things I can say yes to? What is the comfort I can say yes to that isn't online shopping?
Right.
What is the ways that I can take care of my anxiety that isn't, like, if we notice, typically if you need to online shop, that's because you're having anxiety in your body. You're actually feeling physical sensations, and you're trying to escape those sensations because you haven't learned that you can move through them. And so what you do is you just get online to jump out of your body so you don't feel that anxiety anymore. And so what you're saying is, instead of just saying, no, don't get online, you're like, let's actually take the time to notice what's going on inside of us, to notice where it's coming from, to get compassionate towards ourselves, because that actually creates sustainable self-management.
Sustainable self-management is great, a great way to say it. And it also creates intimacy with myself, right? Because when again, I'm not against the white knuckle part of the process of like, I'm just not going to do these things because that's beginning to work another type of muscle, right? But what it leaves out is that connection with me and understanding with me. And my hope is always is like, hey, this thing that doesn't feel fun that goes on inside of me, I actually want to know me, because the more that I know me, the more compassion that I have and the more repair that takes place. So I want to go down that journey of personal intimacy, because it also helps me to communicate myself to the world around me. That means the more I understand this, the more I can bring people in on my journey and be like, hey, you know, the craziness that I do out here, I had a history of doing out here. I'm learning things about me. I'm going to invite you to know about me. I'm going to invite you to participate in the development of this part of my soul as I learn how to manage this thing within me. And then that gives people oftentimes grace for you. That gives them compassion for you through the understanding that you've gained. You've imparted an understanding to them. You've humanized your story. And now they're like, okay, here's a human. I know their story and I can partner with them. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times when there's areas that we don't know how to manage inside of ourselves, we create pain for other people. And if we don't understand it and they don't understand it, there's usually not a lot of grace for it.
Yeah. Well, I have a great example. We have a friend who was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so when they started getting sober, just stopped going to any place that could have alcohol, but didn't communicate that. I think it was because they were still getting to acceptance and had shame around it a little bit. And so they would just not show up to everything. And everybody felt really hurt by it.
And rejected. Because they didn't have information. They didn't understand.
And so now they've been on that process longer. They've totally made it public. They feel comfortable and confident. They don't have shame in it anymore. At least they have less shame, you know. And so the other day, there was an event that was a really important event for one of my friends. And they called them and said, hey, I know this is really important. I'm concerned about going because I think it will be, it was a happy hour event. And they were like, that doesn't feel like it sets me up for success, especially in this season. But I would love to celebrate you. So could I have you over for dinner so that I could celebrate you? And the person they did that to,
what a great yes,
felt so loved. And that's what we're talking about. Self-control isn't just saying no to something. It's what is it that you want to say yes to?
Yeah.
And the way that I watched my alcoholic friend get into sobriety is to start to have a logical understanding of pain and actually play out future pain. So what he started doing is, I really want to go have a drink. Instead of just thinking about the relief that the drink would bring, which is what a lot of us do when we want to do a behavior that we want in that moment, that short-term comfort, he would look at what is that long-term pain it produces. So then he'd be like, one drink always turns into a bunch of drinks. That turns into me not being able to sleep. That turns into me waking up feeling like a hangover tomorrow. That turns to me feeling sick all day. That turns into me feeling more depressed and not feeling productive. That turns into me wanting to do more drinking. That turns into me feeling unhappy. So my brain tells me it's comfort, but I actually logically know that it leads me to being unhappy. And I felt the unhappiness before. And so that's the same kind of logical leverage that I use in my own world, whether it's in a fight with you or it's about food. Like for me, there's a lot of self-control I have to use with food. And so the way that I manage it is like, man, I really want this food, but I have all of these food allergies. And so I'll be like, if I eat this food, then this is the price that I'll have to pay. It'll be this and this and this, which will cause this much pain. Now, I want to be careful. There's all kinds of food disorders out there. And so I'm not giving advice right now on how to get out of eating food. And I'm actually sure there's a little bit of disordered eating I have with all of my allergies because there's so much that I have to avoid. But the concept is it got way easier to say no to food when I realized I'm saying no to feeling horrible for 3 months.
Right.
I'm saying no to being sick all the time. I'm saying no to feeling my whole body ache. I'm saying no. And so it began to be.
And I'm saying yes.
I'm saying yes to feeling good. I'm saying yes to having energy. I'm saying yes to liking my life. I'm saying yes to needing less comfort from food because I actually am living more.
Yeah. It's while you're talking about that, all I can see is the visualization of a Dr. Pepper. As it's just like
right in front of you, taunting you.
Completely taunting me. It's like, hey boy, you want some of this? Check it out. I'm like, get over here, you Dr. Pepper. I just want to drink you up. But I have this thought, because Dr. Pepper is my sweet little addiction that I haven't had in like about a year, over a year. And I will see one and I'm like, but I know that if I drink
you'll probably instantly, when you see it, you'll probably instantly have all the positive body memories rush.
Oh, yeah.
The feeling of craving, the joy.
Me playing Call of Duty with my buddies and then slamming a Dr. Pepper. Yes. I'm high as a kite.
It instantly takes you to such a good memory. Yes, 100%.
Dopamine.
Yes.
But what I do know is that I allowed myself to feel the pain of like, in my mind, like, what do I feel like after I have that sugar and that stuff in my body, especially with the complications that I have? I feel horrible for the next 3 days. I can't function.
Totally.
My
I feel brain fog.
Super foggy, right? And I'm like, you're less tantalizing than you were at the beginning of this, Dr. Pepper.
Yes.
But it's true, because I'm sitting there, like, I have created such a standard of, I desire physical health so deeply. Like, I desire so much to have energy, to have clarity, to be able to feel connected in my communication, that I feel turned off towards the things that I, in the past, had little management towards, if any.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're actually logically remembering the pain, which is remembering the long-term consequences of a behavior, seeing the bigger picture instead of just. So a lot of times what I think about self-management or self-control is, are we giving up? The goal is to give up short-term comfort for long-term pleasure. So so instead of saying I'm giving up short-term comfort and I'm just going to white knuckle it and force my way and just be miserable my whole life, it's I'm giving up a short-term hit so that I can have sustainably what I want. Yeah.
I'll add another example just really quick. So I used to dip tobacco, and that was really bad. It was hard on my body. It caused me to not want to work out and stuff, but I got all the great hits off the nicotine inside of it. And so it's been years since I've touched it. And it's one of those where I'm like, I was talking earlier about, I can't really do, or the idea of like, hopefully you can overcome whatever you can inside so that you can be around it.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to where I could be around people dipping and I'm like, that's okay. I'm not tormented by that. And I've been able to do that for the last few years. But recently my friend was using Zyn pouches, which are so much cleaner and whatever. And I was like, I never want to touch those because I know it'll reactivate me, but I can be around you. But then all of a sudden one night I was like, you know what? We're playing a video game. I haven't done this in years. Pink in my lip. And I was like, oh, that's fine. I'm done. I'll not do it again.
Yes.
And then the next day we were playing video games. I was like, maybe a little bit more. So that went on for 3 days. 3 days. And
do you like that you're confessing this live on the podcast? I've never heard this before. So you're like, I'm safe. Just kidding. I'm going to have a big reaction.
But I after the third night, I came back around for the fourth hangout and I said, I am done. I can tell that my body reset. I'm back. I'm ready to party, bitches. Give me some Zyn. And so I was like, nope, done. I can't. And I purposely didn't hang out a couple times at video games because I was like, I know they're doing it right now.
Yep.
I'm trying to get my brain back out of this before I go down this very slippery, dark path. And I did. But the reason I share that is it's totally reasonable for those of us to find ourselves looping back into this 100%. Stuff.
And we have so many body memories.
Absolutely, 1,000%. And there's no shame inside of it. And so you might, I've had friends who battled addictions for years. They've gotten out of, say, alcohol or certain drug addictions. And then they hit a spiral and they're like, I'm back in it, guys. I'm jonesing like nobody's business. And it hit. And I'm like, there's no shame in that. Like you have had so many victories. Let's just keep moving towards the victories and figure out what's going inside of me right now. Because I could tell that hit a comfort.
Oh,
because I used to throw in the dips and play a video game, and I got my comfort hit. I was like, oh, I must need a little bit of comfort, and this was available all of a sudden, and I did it. And I don't even demonize it. I don't care who takes Zyn nicotine pouches. It does not work for my body and my well-being, and I'm going to go down a dark rabbit hole with it if I do it. And so to me, I think that
So what is the self-reflection that you are doing to help with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I immediately was like, oh, did I need comfort? Oh, yeah. I felt discomfort in a couple different areas of some stuff that was going on inside of. And I was playing a video game, which was an expression of comfort that it's doesn't solve all the problems, but it's not necessarily destructive for me.
Yeah.
But then I was like, let me hit more comfort. This will really take care of it if I throw in this and I'm just going to relax and not have to think about these emotions. So I sat and said, okay, what are the things that I am needing to process over here? And I did that. I allowed myself to process. Good for you. Like, and I could have actually communicated to my friend who I was hanging out with. I could have said like, actually, can we stop for a minute? I just have to verbally ventilate a little bit. Can you tell me, that you care about me? Can you give me some input inside of this? And this would help me a lot right now. I could have narrated what was going on inside. And so, yeah, and again, the whole point of me sharing this is like, hey, you may relapse into stuff or break whatever you're trying to do with self-management. It's not about I have to be a control freak of myself. It's about I'm wanting to create a certain experience of life. So if I fall off the bandwagon, it doesn't make me bad. It just means I need to pay more attention and continue to move towards the trajectory of what experience I do want.
I love that so much. I think that's a great example. And I think sometimes what self-management looks like is I'm going to not put myself in a situation. Like sometimes it's like, oh, I was in pain and I could have processed. Other times it's like, I can't play video games in a row every day, like what you said, because I will just jump into it. Sometimes it's like, I'm going to take a few months off of not playing video games at all until I feel like I'm in a better place. And part of self-management is knowing what season you're in.
Yes.
And knowing what your capacity is.
I was going to say capacity.
When I'm in a lot of pain, I can't put myself in a situation where I have too much access to comfort. Like if I'm in a ton of pain, that's not the time that I'm going to go, my comfort things are so weird, but I'm like, that'd be so unrelatable to other people. But like a great example would be like, sometimes if I'm in a season where I'm really trying to get out of my body, then I'll just read all the time. So I normally will put a limit on how much I can read. Like, okay, when I'm done with this book, I'm going to take a month off before I start my next book so that I come back to being present inside of myself.
Would you say one of yours is engaging in other people's drama?
No comment. I'll say no comment. No comment there. Do I use other people's high stake life situations to make me feel less high stakes about my own life? Sure. Yeah. Anyway, there was one more that I wanted to mention. This is one of the areas that I'm growing in self-control a lot, self-management. And I do just want to say, like, it is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. So for those of you who have spiritual backgrounds, it says the fruit of the Holy Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, goodness, and self-control. And I always thought that self-control was like kind of the odd one out. Like all of them are like mushy gushy, like gentleness, kindness, love, patience, like all of those seem like this wonderful human being. And then you're like, and self-control, why is that in there?
Yeah.
And for me, I think that it's because self-control is what enables love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness. Like you actually need self-control to be able to have all of those other things. And I think if we could, a part of self-management is, do I believe that I'm on earth for pleasure and comfort?
Right.
Is that why I believe I'm here? Because if that's why you believe that you're here, then you're always going to want to indulge in whatever. And I actually love having fun. I love enjoying life. I do think part of why we're here is to experience life.
Yeah.
But I also think that why we're here is to learn or to grow or to become like love. And I think in culture, we've kind of swung. Like I grew up with a real stoic religious belief system that was like all pleasure is bad. And then it flipped to like all pleasure is good. And I think there's a balance if we can come to the belief that it's not just that, because I actually feel better in life when life isn't about feeling good all the time.
Yeah.
Because if life is about feeling good all the time, I'm constantly unsatisfied because I can't feel good all the time. It's impossible for anybody. And if I believe it's all about comfort for my soul, then if I'm not getting comfort for my soul, then I feel entitled and mad and angry. And so part of me in the self-control thing is to like recognize that being able to have short-term pain actually creates a really great reward system.
Yeah.
And I've had friends who made a ton of money and they were able to get whatever they wanted right away. They didn't have to wait for anything. They never had to save up to get something. They never had to wait. And things started losing their joy. Mm-hmm. The appeal started losing because pleasure all the time actually ruins the dopamine cycle and ruins the reward center. And so there's something about, I have to save up for this car that I really want for a long time. And then when you finally get the car, there's this amazing feeling of how good it feels to have this thing that you worked for a long time for. Mm-hmm. And so when we have the logic of understanding, not having something yet actually produces joy in the future, actually produces benefit. If we see that it's like a pleasure pain cycle, like there has to be something that, like the hunger cycle is a great example. When you're really hungry and then you eat a great meal, you feel the tension of the pain and then you feel the joy of the relief. Yeah. And if we are never aware, if we never put the no on a season or on a thing, a no to the comfort, then the actual comfort we get becomes less and less. It's almost like drugs that the more you take them, the less they affect you.
Yeah.
That's what comfort is like. And so if you begin to see there's benefits to me there's benefit to me waiting. There's benefit to me saying, no, I'm not just going to react on this impulse. If you can start to see that as I'm going to feel more joy, I'm going to feel more relief, I'm going to feel good at life when I wait for this thing and do this work.
Yeah. I think that one last thing I might say, I think we're going to wrap this. Yeah. I think that when we're talking about vision, we're talking about an experience, we're talking about quality of life. And I think that it would be helpful to define quality of life, quality of relationships, quality. What is quality to you? And I think that sometimes we don't even have vision for what quality can be. And sometimes we have to begin to reflect on other people's experiences and kind of go on a hunt for like what I know that environments that I grew up in, I maybe didn't know what a quality marriage might look like.
Totally.
Not just in my home, but the other homes around me. I didn't have eyes for it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have something to cast vision for. Mm-hmm. I did, however, I just know something has to be better than this. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to figure that vision out inside of my head. But something that can be very beneficial is to be watching what are the things that you're drawn to, like what are the relationships you're drawn to or the life experiences of like, oh, I can tell that there's quality, like actual sustaining quality there, and then begin to build vision around that.
Yeah. I was thinking about ways to build self-control.
Mhm.
I think things like building your tolerance for uncomfortable feelings, so like ice baths, really built your self-control
Yeah.
in our marriage fights.
Yeah, it really did.
Because it was like, I can feel an uncomfortable feeling in my body, and I can actually help my body relax without having to
And I
react.
can move through it.
Yeah.
And know that it's a limited amount of discomfort. It's not forever.
Endless. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think another thing is like, I grew up doing Lent all of the time.
Oh, Lent.
Yeah, every
Good
year
old Lent.
you fast something for 40 days. It may not be food, it could be TV, it could
Would you
be
be
sugar,
offended if
it
I
could be-
fasted this relationship? But it's for Lent. Just 40 days.
Just 40 days. I gotta go. So the concept of when you have something that a commitment that you make to yourself that you follow through on, it starts to build confidence. And so if there's just an area that you can say no in and you practice, and maybe you're like, I'm going to fast something for 3 days. I'm going to fast sugar for 3 days. That's it. 3 days, once a month. Like if you can start with something that feels doable, but you can build your self-confidence in being able to say no. Don't try to just jump in with the thing that's hardest for you. Work on building the confidence that you have the power to say no to something.
Yeah. When you're talking about that, our psychopath friend, known as Rachel Hughes, purchased us a torture mat. And this torture mat is by this company called Shakti or something like that, the Shakti mat or something.
Yeah.
And it is it's meant to kind of be
It kind of feels like
it's modeled after a bed of nails.
Or a bed of Lego pieces.
These very sharp Lego edge pieces.
Yeah.
And then you lay on it bare skin for like 5 minutes or more or whatever, right? And it's interesting because that continued, like physical things, that 5 minutes of laying on that mat builds my tolerance to something that feels very discomforting and is painful. But it's like there are so many creative ways
to build self-control.
To build self-control and to push the edge of what feels comfortable for you. But the more that you do it, you realize I'm not fragile. Pain isn't forever. And I'm going to be okay.
My body can go into a reaction and then it can come back down.
And find its peace.
Yeah. And one of the things about, you mentioned ice baths and that mat, because most of the times that we do impulsive behavior, it's because we're actually having a body sensation that we're not aware of.
Yep.
I was not even aware I had body sensations. So we're not even aware of it. But the anxiety or whatever is so uncomfortable in our bodies that we make a decision to get out fast.
Quickly escape it. I'm going to get a hit of something, whatever that experience is.
And so actually practicing being able to feel discomfort in your body and then starting to recognize.
Yes.
For me, learning how to recognize as soon as I feel like I want to do an action fast, or like the other day, something happened and I texted like 5 people at once about what happened. And I was like, oh, wow, there must be something going on in my body that I'm trying to get out of right away. So then I sat and I thought about what was going on. And then I did some body movement to work through that instead of just continuing to reacting. But that ability to notice, I can have and actually noticing my body. Most people don't even know that they're having an uncomfortable sensation physically, which is why they are losing self-control.
Yeah. I had that happen the other day on social media. Someone just said something snarky and cutting, and they have no face, no picture, no followers. They hide behind like the wall of Instagram. And I immediately said, "You're an idiot." And then I was like, I deleted it.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I felt very much dishonored, disrespected, cut down by someone who doesn't even know me. It was just hard. And I was like, oh, I really wanted to get out of that feeling so quick. I wanted to alleviate it by quickly dehumanizing whoever the person is that's choosing to be a clown, right? They're acting very clown-like in their behavior. And I was like, oh, I could actually, like, I don't know who that person is. Must make them feel good to be harsh and mean on the internet. I can go sit in my emotions over here and actually deal with them instead of responding to this.
That's so good. We didn't go through my one most favorite self-control hack.
When is it? Chocolate.
I wish it was chocolate. That sounds so nice.
It'll fix it all.
It'll fix
Chocolate.
it all.
Chocolate. This is a good conversation.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Yeah.
really important. I wish we need to have more conversations where in our friendships where we're talking about the value of self-control. Because I think it makes it more doable. It makes it more fun. It makes it more inspiring instead of something that we avoid. And it's not something to have shame about. We all have so many areas that we need to grow.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm reacting because I have intolerable feelings. I have to learn how to tolerate my feelings more.
One of the things I would suggest as a piece of homework for people listening is from a posture of matter-of-fact thinking. Like, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to say I'm a shitty person for this, but it's just matter-of-fact. Where are the areas where I have little to no self-management?
Yeah.
Where someone or something can happen and I am just driven. I jump on a train and the train takes me wherever it wants to take me, and really write it down. Like, this is what I do.
You know what we didn't talk about? I'm
What?
so sorry. That was ADD. Finish your thought.
Well, and write it down. Take a chance to sit down and go like, I, in this area, do not have self-management. These are my responses when I'm feeling ... and recognize what you're feeling. Just the sheer recognition is going to powerfully begin to like highlight it to you and begin to give you power over that area where you lack self-management.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've talked a lot about like when our nervous system goes into fight or flight, because those are the like fast reactions, but we didn't talk a lot about freeze. And so I just want to mention this, like I had to have self-control when I would go into depression. And self-control for me looked like I'm still going to get up out of bed by 10 and I'm going to make the bed and I'm going to get dressed and I'm going to put makeup on, because that is going to help. Like there were still things that I did to not let that deep hole, the quicksand pull me all the way in. And it didn't necessarily mean that I could get all the way out, but there were behaviors. I had as much self-control and self-management on the feeling nothing and the numbness that I do when I'm reacting. And I think it's important to actually just mention that side of self-control.
Well, there's even that side of self-control in the inner workings of like, when I felt depressed, I started saying, I will not process how bad my life is when I'm depressed. I can only process the bad things when I feel a happy day. Like when I have this ability to tolerate it and look at it from a place where I'm not triggered and consumed by it. And that became a self-management thing of like, not today. I'm not going to look at the finances over there. I'm in depression right now. Like that's not the thing I'm going to tackle. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, way to end on a Debbie Downer there, Abby. Great job. It's like the start of the whole podcast. Hey, Justin, I just want to steal fun. So,
what did you say? I threw a unfun blanket over all your fun. What did you say?
I have no idea what I said. My mouth just runs sometimes. Hey, it's been fun hanging out with y'all.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about us, you can go to JustinAbby, that's abi.com. If you haven't gone to YouTube and subscribed, please do so. Yeah. Jump on YouTube, watch us there, hit the bell button. And if you're listening from Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give us a review. Rate, review, subscribe, and share.
Or YouTube.
Yeah, but share the podcast.
Sharing is the best.
That's how it gets out. If you feel impacted, if you feel like this has made a dent on your life and it's bettering your world,
inspiring your thoughts, or
then share it with people. Share it. I mean, that's what you can do for us. Yeah, and we'll keep producing the content. Yeah. All right.
Goodbye.
I have to pee so bad. Oh my God. Bye.
Self-control. You use so much self-control.
So much for 5 minutes. Bye.